Welcome, chosen ones. For years, you've carried a truth so powerful, so undeniable, that it often felt like a burden. The world couldn't see it, and worse, they mocked you for it. They labeled you crazy, paranoid, or even delusional. But now, as time passes and reality unfolds, the truth you've always known stands clear and undeniable. The same people who dismissed you are now facing the consequences of their ignorance, and they can't escape the truth you saw long before they did. But here's the thing: you never needed their approval. Your strength has always come from within, from the unshakable belief that what you knew was right, even when no one else could see it. Now, they're left with nothing but regret, trying to reconcile the lies they once held dear. If you're ready to stand firm in the truth you've always known, it's time to rise. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this message with someone who still struggles to see the truth. Together, we're stepping into a new chapter. Let's begin. 1. The truth you carried was never your burden. For so long, the truth you carried felt like a weight, a burden that others didn't understand. You held something deep inside, a knowledge that was sharper than any sword, capable of cutting through the layers of lies the world clung to. But despite its power, you never sought to force it on anyone. You understood something profound, that carrying the truth wasn't about proving others wrong, but about waiting for the right time when they would have no choice but to see it for themselves. You knew that God had placed this truth inside you, not to validate your own worth, but to bring clarity to a world that was blinded by its own illusions. There was no need to chase approval, no need to argue or convince. The truth, as strong and undeniable as it was, didn't need your validation. It would stand on its own when the time was right. You carried it with patience, knowing that God's timing is always perfect. It wasn't easy, though. The world wasn't ready to hear what you knew. They mocked you, belittled you, and dismissed you as someone out of touch. They couldn't understand the wisdom you carried because it shattered their comfortable realities. But through it all, you remained steady, trusting that the moment of awakening would come. And now, as the world begins to awaken, as the truth slowly unfolds before them, they can no longer deny what you always knew. The truth you carried wasn't a curse. It was a calling to stand firm, to hold fast, and to be a beacon of light in a world so desperately in need of it. While they questioned you, laughed at you, and rejected you, you were patient. You knew the truth wasn't for your glory. It was for the moment when they would finally see. And in that moment, you would no longer need to say a word. They would realize it on their own. And as they do, you'll remain unshaken, standing in the power of the truth you've always known. 2. Silence is a powerful weapon. In a world full of noise, where everyone is shouting for attention, the chosen one remains silent. It's not that they lack something to say, it's that they understand the true power of silence. In a society where validation is sought through loud words and constant clamor, silence becomes a weapon, a statement in itself. The world around you may be in chaos, voices clashing and demanding recognition, but you remain unmoved. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You don't need to prove your truth in the moment, because you know the truth doesn't beg for validation. It waits to be revealed in its own time. Your silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's the quiet strength that comes from knowing that, eventually, all will be made clear. People around you may try to rush forward with impulsive words, reacting to every situation with haste and emotion. But you, the chosen one, are different. You understand that wisdom is not in winning every argument, but in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Your quiet presence alone challenges the noise around you, forcing others to confront their insecurities without the distraction of constant chatter. While others scramble for attention, trying to be right, trying to dominate the conversation, you stand firm, letting time do the talking. Your silence forces others to face the truth, whether they want to or not. As they react impulsively, you remain calm, trusting that the truth you carry will reveal itself, regardless of their immediate responses. And as time passes, their words lose meaning, while the truth you've silently held becomes undeniable. The more they react with haste, the more they reveal their own fears and uncertainty. Your silence, in its quiet strength, cuts through the noise. It becomes a reminder that sometimes the loudest statements are the ones that need no words at all. In the end, when the dust settles and the truth stands clear, it will be your calm, unwavering presence that remains. While they raced to be heard, you stayed rooted in wisdom, knowing that the real power lies not in shouting, but in patiently waiting for the truth to unfold. 3. From mockery to desperation. There's a cruel irony in how the same people who once mocked you now find themselves turning to you for answers. They laughed at your wisdom, ridiculed your insights, and called you crazy, all because the truth you carried was too uncomfortable for them to face. They dismissed you as delusional, paranoid, or just a dreamer, unable to comprehend the clarity you possessed. But what they didn't realize was that the truth you held wasn't for them to understand on your terms. It was for them to see when they were ready. And now, as the reality they refuse to face unfolds before their eyes, they are forced to confront the undeniable truth. The shift from mockery to desperation is jarring. At first, they mocked your every word. Each piece of wisdom you offered, dismissed as nonsensical. They couldn't see beyond their own narrow world view, and it was easier to belittle you than to accept that they might be wrong. But as the truth slowly became undeniable, they found themselves in a position they never expected, one of uncertainty and vulnerability. The very knowledge they once scorned now seemed like their only lifeline. What's truly ironic is how quickly their confidence in dismissing you crumbles when they begin to realize the truth. What they once called nonsense now becomes their greatest hope. The truth they fought against now stands as their last chance for understanding, and they scramble to make sense of it all. They come to you, not with an apology, but with questions, seeking the guidance they once refused to acknowledge. In this moment, you become the very person they turn to, but not because you sought their approval. You never needed it. You never sought validation. You simply carried the truth, knowing that time would reveal itself to those who were ready to see it. This shift isn't about you finally being recognized. It's about the fact that they've finally come to the realization that they were wrong, and they're desperate to make up for lost time. Their approach isn't about owning their mistake, but trying to find an easy way to fix the mess they've made. The truth you've always known is now their burden, and they can no longer ignore it. You never needed their approval, but now they are forced to reckon with their rejection of your wisdom. In the end, the truth doesn't need to be validated. It simply waits to be recognized. And when the time comes, they will have no choice but to seek you out, knowing deep down that you were right all along. 4. The cost of carrying the truth. Carrying the truth is never easy. It often comes at a great personal cost, a cost that many are unwilling to pay. The world, for all its noise and distractions, prefers comfort. It thrives in denial, in the soothing illusion that everything is fine. But when you carry the truth, you challenge that comfort. You pull back the curtain, exposing the raw reality that others have carefully hidden from themselves. And for that, you are often met with rejection, isolation, and misunderstanding. People don't want to face the truth because it threatens their sense of security. It forces them to confront the cracks in their lives, the places they've been avoiding, the beliefs they've clung to in fear. The truth demands change, and change is never easy. It's much more comfortable to remain in the darkness of denial, to keep pretending everything is fine, even when it's not. So when you bring the light of truth into the room, people push back. They don't want to see what you're showing them, because to acknowledge it means they must change, and most are not ready for that. Much like Christ, who carried the weight of humanity's sins in silence, the bearer of truth often carries their burden alone. You don't seek approval from others, you follow God's will. You know that your calling is greater than the opinions of the world around you. You carry the truth not for your own glory, but because it is the right thing to do. But in doing so, you often find yourself standing alone. The very people you hoped would listen turn their backs. They may mock you, dismiss you, or criticize you. And in those moments, it can feel painfully isolating. But this is the price of wisdom. The cost of carrying the truth is not a small one. It means being misunderstood, rejected, and isolated. It means enduring the weight of knowing what others cannot see, feeling the loneliness of being out of sync with the world. It means sacrificing your peace for a time, standing firm in what you know, even when the world is not ready to hear it. And yet, just as Christ endured the cross to fulfill his purpose, the chosen ones endure the weight of truth not for themselves, but to bring light into a world that desperately needs it. It is not a burden to be taken lightly, but it is a calling to be answered. The loneliness is temporary, the rejection is fleeting, but the truth you carry will one day shine brightly for all to see. Until then, you carry it faithfully, knowing that you are not alone. God walks with you every step of the way. 5. Strategy over speed. In today's fast-paced world, everyone seems to be in a rush, chasing quick rewards, seeking immediate gratification, and always looking for the next big thing. But the chosen one understands that life is not a race, it's a journey. And true wisdom doesn't lie in speed. It's found in patience, foresight, and strategy. While others rush through life, making impulsive decisions driven by the need for instant results, you remain focused on the bigger picture. You know that the road to lasting success is paved with careful, deliberate steps, not frantic, hasty actions. People around you may celebrate their small, fleeting victories, but you understand that these quick wins aren't the end goal. They're distractions. Life is not about winning in the moment. It's about winning in the long term. The chosen one moves through life with a quiet, thoughtful approach, always thinking ahead, considering the consequences of every action, and planning for what's to come. You know that every move you make is part of a larger strategy, one that others can't see because they're too focused on immediate results. While they chase after temporary gains, you're setting yourself up for something far greater. You know that true power comes from patience, waiting for the right opportunities, preparing yourself, and positioning yourself for long-term success. It's not about rushing to the finish line, but about making smart, calculated moves that will lead you to where you need to be. You understand that life isn't about being fast. It's about being smart. In a world that rewards quick fixes and instant recognition, the chosen one's ability to move with purpose and clarity is often misunderstood. Others might question your slow pace, wondering why you're not in the race with them. But you know something they don't. You're not trying to keep up with them. You're building something lasting, something they can't see because they're too busy rushing to the next moment. Your strategy ensures that, while others waste time on small victories, you are steadily moving forward, laying the groundwork for something far greater. You're playing the long game, trusting that your foresight and preparation will pay off in ways they can't even imagine. And when the time comes, you will stand in a place they can never reach, because you knew all along that the key to true success isn't in winning fast, but in winning smart. 6. The heartbreak of being right. Being right, especially when everyone else refuses to see the truth, is a bittersweet experience. It's a feeling that comes with both a quiet satisfaction and an overwhelming sorrow. The chosen one often finds themselves burdened with foresight, seeing the mistakes, the heartaches, and the consequences that others are blind to. While others rush ahead, oblivious to the pitfalls ahead, you stand back, knowing exactly where things are headed. You carry the weight of that knowledge, but what good is foresight if you cannot change the outcome? At first, the satisfaction of being proven right may feel sweet. It validates your wisdom, your patience, and your unwavering belief in what you knew all along. But that satisfaction is quickly overshadowed by sorrow. Watching the very people who once mocked you suffer the consequences of their own blindness is a heartbreak that cannot be avoided. You knew it was coming, but the pain of seeing them face it is far deeper than any fleeting victory you could have experienced. They never listened. They never saw it until it was too late. There is no real triumph in being right when the damage has already been done. There's no joy in knowing you were correct when the world around you is now reeling from the fallout. You may have warned them, tried to help them, offered clarity when they refused to listen. But now, the truth is undeniable, and all you're left with is the heartache of seeing what could have been avoided. The burden of foresight isn't just about knowing the truth. It's about witnessing the inevitable consequences of inaction and being powerless to stop them. You watch as people continue down the path you foresaw, helpless to change their course. The emotional toll of knowing the outcome, while others remain unaware, is immense. You can't undo the past, no matter how much you wish you could. In the end, being right too soon is not a victory. It's a quiet heartbreak, one that lingers long after the truth is revealed. It's the ache of knowing you could have saved them from themselves, but they had to learn the hard way. There is no real joy in being proven right when the cost is so high and when all you can do is watch as the consequences unfold. 7. The price of pride. Pride is a dangerous thing. It blinds people to the truth, making them so consumed with their own self-image and ego that they can't bear to admit they were wrong. The truth you carried wasn't rejected because it lacked substance. It was rejected because accepting it would have required them to swallow their pride, to acknowledge that you, someone they once dismissed or looked down upon, could be right. could possess a deeper understanding was too much for their inflated egos to bear. Pride isn't just about arrogance. It's a defense mechanism, a fragile shield against vulnerability. Accepting the truth you offered would mean admitting their own failure to see what was right in front of them. It would force them to confront the harsh reality that their worldview was incomplete, that their understanding was flawed, and that was something their pride wouldn't allow. It was easier to dismiss you, to belittle your wisdom, than to face the uncomfortable truth that they had been wrong all along. But as time passed, the truth you carried became undeniable. The lies they clung to, the arrogance that blinded them, started to crumble under the weight of reality. Now, they have no choice but to face the fact that their pride kept them from seeing what you saw so clearly. The very wisdom they once mocked has become their only hope, and they are forced to confront the truth they fought so hard to reject. What stings the most is that their pride prevented them from seeing something so simple, yet so powerful. It wasn't that your truth was complex or difficult to understand. It was that they were too proud to accept it, too caught up in their own sense of superiority to even consider that you might be right. Now, as the consequences of their pride unfold, they must reckon with the fact that their arrogance was their undoing. The hardest part of their realization isn't just that they were wrong. It's that their pride prevented them from listening to something they needed to hear. In the end, the price of pride is far greater than any victory they could have achieved. It cost them wisdom, it cost them humility, and in the end, it cost them the chance to grow. Now, as they come to terms with their failure, you stand unwavering, having carried the truth all along, unshaken by the pride they tried to impose on you. 8. The illusion crumbles. For so long, they walked with a sense of superiority, convinced they had it all figured out. They built their lives on the illusion of power, security, and control. Their confidence was loud, visible to everyone around them, and they wore it like armor. They looked down on you, dismissing you as naive or weak, while they paraded their success and status. They believed they were ahead, always one step forward, while you stood quietly on the sidelines, observing. But what they didn't see, the truth they couldn't recognize, was that their confidence was built on fragile foundations, a house of cards propped up by fear and insecurity. Now, that illusion is beginning to crumble. The walls they built to protect their sense of power are falling apart, and the reality they've been avoiding has finally caught up with them. The world they once controlled with their false confidence is now slipping through their fingers. The cracks in their facade are now undeniable. What they thought was strength was nothing more than a shield made of pride and ego. And now, as their illusion shatters, they must face the truth that they were never truly in control. Meanwhile, you, the chosen one, stand steady. While the world around them collapses, you remain unwavering, grounded in the truth you've always known. You never sought the superficial success or fleeting recognition they chased. You didn't need to build yourself up with hollow victories. Instead, you focused on what truly mattered: inner strength, wisdom, and a foundation built on something deeper than the fleeting validation they sought. As they scramble to keep up with the chaos of their own making, you quietly move forward, unaffected by the crumbling illusions around you. Your steadiness feels like a challenge to them, a reminder of everything they ignored in their pursuit of empty achievements. They believed they were ahead, but they were only running in circles, blind to the truth you carried. Now, as their false sense of security disintegrates, they face the painful realization that their success was never built on real strength. It was built on a lie. You, on the other hand, stand untouched, moving with purpose and clarity, knowing that real power isn't in appearances. It's in resilience, in the ability to endure, and in the quiet strength that comes from knowing your foundation is unshakable. While they are left grappling with the consequences of their false beliefs, you continue to rise, moving forward, steady and unyielding in your truth. The final reckoning. The truth you've carried all this time has never needed validation from the world. You were always right, even when they couldn't see it. The mocking, the rejection, the disbelief, it was all part of the journey. The chosen one's path has always been one of resilience, unwavering in the face of doubt and misunderstanding. Now, as the veil lifts and the truth becomes undeniable, those who once doubted you must face the reality they tried to avoid. This is your moment. You were never waiting for their approval. You've always been ahead, always standing firm in your wisdom, in your calling. It's time to step into your power and embrace the truth you've always known. No more shrinking, no more holding back. The world may not have seen you before, but they see you now, and they cannot deny your strength. So, chosen one, stand steady. Your belief in the truth was never about proving them wrong. It was about staying grounded in what you knew was right. The time for waiting is over. It's your time to rise, unshaken and unyielding, as the truth stands tall and the world catches up.